The All-Star break is here. It's not time to rest. It's time to make some moves and get ahead of the game. Pick up some smart stashes for the second half of the season. I'm going to give you 10 hitters and pitchers that you can look at on the waiver wire right now. Young players making their debuts and also some guys coming back from injury. Another week, another Baltimore Oriole rookie who's come up to join the big club. This time it's Colton Cowser. This is a player who was drafted number 5 overall. Definitely groomed to be ready to hold down an outfield job for years to come. Now, unlike Jordan Westberg, who was called up not too long ago, he's a little bit more hit over power. Don't expect a lot of home runs initially. He does have good speed, but not really a stolen base threat either. Only had 7 stolen bases this year at AAA, and last year between Double and AAA levels, only 2 stolen bases. So while I will say I don't think Cowser's fantasy profile, at least in roto leagues, isn't as friendly as some of their other young guys, especially like Westberg or Gunnar Henderson, I think Cowser's definitely worth picking up, especially if he manages to hit right away. His hit tool is pretty good, like I said, can hit for average, and just the fact that now he's in that exciting young Orioles offense, which is looking really promising. And now we have a Marlins prospect to talk about, someone who, well, isn't as much of a household name, but Dane Myers is finally getting his shot with all the injuries that they've had. Jazz Chisholm is hurt again. And Jonathan Davis, who was kind of a pleasant surprise this year, he's out for a while as well. Now, Myers is already 27 years old and just making his major league debut. But hey, every year there's a guy who comes along like this, isn't there? Last year, Joey Meneses. Before that, Frank Schwindel. I mean, one of these kind of career minor leaguers who not a lot is expected from, but then they just come up and rake. It's too early to say that that's going to be the case, but he was definitely raking in the minors this year. He hit 291 at the AA level and then was hitting 440 in 20 games at AAA, which is why he got the call. Looks like he'll get a shot to hold down center field and be in the everyday lineup. Let's see what he can do. Now, I know I wasn't super enthusiastic about Nick Gonzalez when I first recommended him. I said, look, maybe try stashing him and see what happens. Don't expect a lot because this guy has a ton of talent. You know, he's got those tools that you want, but he also has a lot of swing and miss. Well, he's kind of showed both so far, but I think he's shown enough that he's worth adding if you need help. And look, there's a league where, Dansby Swanson just hit the IL. You're going to need a replacement at shortstop. He might be your guy. So far, hitting 280 with 2 home runs and 11 RBIs in 15 games. I mean, he'll have some nights where he's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts like in his very first game. And he'll have some nights where he drives in multiple runs. But so far, the average is pretty good. And now with Ji-Hwan Bae also hurt, Brian Hayes hurt, Inter McCutcheon, the Pirates, man, they're going to need him to come through. So a good chance to keep collecting at-bats. He doesn't look overwhelmed by the major league level. So I think it's time to buy in. And let's go with one more prospect. This one might be a short-term rental or maybe not at all. But look, Jonathan Aranda of Tampa Bay, is one of their top prospects. He's going to be with the club for at least a couple days before the break because Josh Lowe on bereavement leave. 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts tonight. Not what you want to see, but it's obviously early. The question is, will he still be with them after the break? I don't know. It's hard for me to say if he is, and if he gets a shot, somebody you definitely want to monitor. This guy was crushing it at the AAA level, hitting 342 with 16 home runs. Now, last year, he did get a shot with the Rays, only hit 192 over 32 games. Maybe he's ready this year, but maybe we'll have to wait. Like, if he doesn't stay up with the club, we'll probably see him again at some point, maybe August, September, who knows. So I would say right now, somebody to monitor. Unless you happen to be in a deep league where you've got some bench space, in which case, why not add him now? And I also want to talk about second-year player Riley Green, back from injury. I loved Riley Green as a late round sleeper. He was definitely worth adding earlier in the season, and he was just getting hot right before injury struck. Missed all of June and the first week of July, but he's back, will be in the lineup, probably in the top of the order there for Detroit the rest of the way. He's hitting 302 on the season, and if you look at his rolling xWOBA, he was getting better and better as the season progressed. Got a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, and again, should have a good chance to score runs, being in the leadoff spot. That's also the appeal for Mauricio Dubon of Houston. I remember Dubon from earlier in the year because Jose Altuve, of course, was on the shelf for a while and he filled in pretty well. I mean, that average was really high. He was a popular pickup, and then Altuve came back and he didn't have any fantasy value. Well, here we go again. Altuve is hurt, and so Dubon has a chance to resume his spot. He'll be the second baseman, and he should be hitting first in that Houston lineup. Obviously, that's a good spot. Now, Dubon, not going to give you much power. He does have speed, but not a guy who's going to steal too many bases. So you're looking for average. You're looking for some runs scored. Dubon can fill in nicely, especially if you do have Altuve and you need a replacement. Now on to the pitchers. Let's talk about some comeback stories here. The first would be Alek Manoah of Toronto, who you probably know had a rough, okay, that's putting it way too nicely, awful first half of the season. It was so bad he got sent down, not even to Double or Triple A, but to the Florida Complex League just to work things out mechanically and mentally. He was among the worst of all starters across every major stat, including walks. I mean, the control just was not there. I will say this, look, I didn't draft Manoah anywhere this year. I kind of raised the flag because last year, he way overachieved on his expected stats. He didn't really get enough whiffs to make you confident that he could repeat last year's success. But I didn't see this coming. I did not think he would get pounded this hard. It looks like he might be over his issues. He won't be putting up numbers like last year, but hopefully not what he did in the first half either. His first start back with the club, he looked really good. Only gave up 1 run and struck out 8 in 6 innings. Now, granted, it was against the Tigers, right? Not the most fearsome offense, but still, it looks like he's got his stuff back. He's got his confidence back, most importantly. And so I think it's time, if he was waived and he's available in your league, take a chance on him. All right, now here's a guy that I guarantee you haven't thought of all year because he has not set foot on the mound, Jose Quintana, who you might recall signed with the New York Mets. If anybody could use a nice comeback story, it's the Mets. They need some help, including pitching. Quintana was really good last year. He was effective, and he was definitely what you call an innings eater. He started 32 games for both Pittsburgh and then St. Louis after he got traded. Ratios are really nice, 2.93 ERA and a 1.21 whip. The only downside is his strikeout rate took a big dip from the year before, went down to 20.2%. This is a guy who's definitely older. Velocity is not what it used to be. He's going to have to get by on location, kind of his wily knowledge of the game. We'll see if he's helpful in any way. He's got to get back and show that he can hit his spots consistently. I wouldn't be putting him in a rotation right away, but he should be ready to go shortly after the All-Star break. Again, you're looking for a sneaky stash. This guy might help you rotation. And then out in Arizona, don't forget about Merrill Kelly, who has been out for a while. Looks like he is also back from injury. He was actually having a pretty good start to the season, a 3.22 ERA and a 1.14 whip. And unlike Quintana, his strikeout rate has gone up. It was a career high 25.7% this year. The way Arizona is playing, he actually has a chance to get some wins, which is not something we expected before the season started. Look, he didn't have a serious injury. He should be fine going forward. And so this is someone who, again, I'm not going to say he's going to, be a league winner or anything like that. He's not going to carry your team in terms of pitching, but he is a good, solid addition to your staff. And then let's throw one more Marlin out there. Trevor Rogers, remember him? Broke out in 2021, had an all-star season, and then last year just completely imploded. Anybody who had him was pretty bitter. Had ERA well over 5, a whip of 1.5, looked nothing like the same guy. There was a lot of feeling that he might come back this year, at least, be serviceable. I don't think he's going to be what he was 2 years ago because he's also a guy who had overachieved a bit on his expected stats. He can generate strikeouts. That's not a problem, but also did have some good batted ball luck. But he's not as bad as the guy we saw last year. So we should see something in between. Look, that's basically what he had done in his first 4 starts this year. Someone who's a solid kind of late rotation guy. It's hard to really say this year because he's been out since April with a bicep strain, but on the mend, could rejoin that Marlins rotation. And look, they need him. Yuri Perez, who's not hurt, being sent down to manage his innings. Not a big surprise there. Edward Cabrera still in the IL. They're going to need Rogers back. And so look for him to resume his starting spot pretty soon. I think he's worth it because at the very least, he can get those strikeouts. And the Marlins are actually winning games too, so he can help you there. I think the ratios will be good enough. Those are some guys that could help you start off the second half in a good way for your fantasy team. What about some guys that, they've been helping you more than you suspect all along if you have them, and if not, it's time to pick up on them.